Hi, team. Welcome to a marvelous Math Monday. Today, we embark on a new unit in math, which is measurement. It's a big part of math. Measuring how big things are is a big deal. We want to get these types of things right so that we can, have bridges that stand up and that their supports are long enough to support their weight. In any case, the problems that we're going to be looking at today will be relating squares and triangles in a very interesting and powerful tool, which is the Pythagorean theorem here. So working with the Pythagorean theorem actually highlights one really important part of the problem-solving process that I want you to go through with each problem, and I've broken it down here. You're not just going to crunch your numbers, get your calculator to output a number, and then say, there it is. What I want you to do first with every question is to start by making a guess. You're going to look at the diagram and you're going to guess. It's going to ask you, how long is this side? Well, guess. And then the next step is to write down your formula that you're going to be using. Today, that's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The next step is going to be to put the knowns inside. You're going to know two sides already, and you're going to substitute those two sides in to find out the unknown side. So substitute in carefully into the formula, and then work that to find your unknowns. And that's great. Once you got the unknown, that's kind of like the answer to your question. But the last step is to check your work against your guess. And you want to make sure, does that match my guess or not? Sometimes this is going to help you make better guesses in the future because your guess is going to be way wrong. But most of the time, you're going to find that your guess helps you catch your errors. And if you make as many errors as I do, it's very important that you have a system for catching them, finding them. Let's just take a look at some problems that we can solve using the Pythagorean theorem. One thing that's important to note, C is the longest side of the triangle. That's always going to go right there. And it's always across from the right angle. And so this is going to figure into some of the guessing that we do. Here's a triangle. And if you ask me to guess how long C is, I would say, well, it's got to be longer than 7. It's got to at least be bigger than 7 because I know that C is the longest side of the triangle. 7 is one of the sides, so C must be bigger. I also know it should be less than 11. The reason I know that it's less than 11 is because if I say, take this here and I rotate it down, like I'm just going to swing that side down, so it's no longer making a 90-degree angle. It's now straight along 180 degrees. Then this whole side from here to here would be 11 centimeters. And that's clearly longer than if I take C and rotate it down. It's going to come like there. If I rotate that 4 centimeters down, it's going to be much longer than if I take C and rotate it just a little bit. So because I visualize that, I know that my answer, how long is C, it should be somewhere between 11 and 7. So I might guess, well, it looks like 9. Looks like about 9 centimeters. So now we're going to embark on doing the work and finding that out. So this is what my step-by-step would look like here. And you're going to have a copy of this as well. It's already over there. First, I'm going to start. Well, I'm going to start with a guess, and I'm going to write down my guess. Maybe it's 9. Then I'm going to copy out the formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Always start with what you know is a rock-solid truth. And then put in your unknowns. Your knowns. Work from what you know towards what you don't know. So I know that that side is 7, so I could have 7 squared plus 4 squared will equal the longest side squared. I kind of verbalize that in my mind because I see, yes, C is the longest side. I expect it's around 9. So there we go. And now we have a bedmas problem right here. I can't evaluate C squared, so I just leave that alone. But 7 squared I can, that's 49. 4 squared I can, that's 16. And then adding 49 to 16 gives me 65, will be C squared. And now, here I also have a chance to guess. Okay? This is telling me C is not 65. C multiplied by C is 65. C squared is 65. So, how do I solve this type of question? First, also guess. Okay? And here it's useful to remember your squares. And if I remember that, I'll just write this little table down here in red. 64 would be equal to 8 squared. C squared happens to be 65. And if we go up one notch from 8, that'd be 9 squared is 81. So this tells me C is some number greater than 8, but less than 9. And in fact, I think C is a lot closer to 8 than 9, because 65 is a lot closer to 64 than it is to 81. So my guess of it being 9 is not so bad, but it looks much closer to 8. Now, how do we solve this problem on our calculator to get an exact answer, or at least a good decimal approximation? Well, let's take a look. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the number 65, and then I'm going to use this button here, the square root button, to take the square root of that. And that, taking the square root of 65, should give me 8.0622, yada, 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 yada. This is an irrational number. There's no way to write it as a fraction. It's even a different family of numbers than we've seen before. Okay? So the key here is when you're confronted with an equation like this, the way you unravel that is you take the square root of both sides. This is because the square root of c squared is c. Taking the square root is the inverse operation of squaring something. So that's how you can undo that. But we do it to both sides of the equation to make sure that it's true. So the square root of 65 is an exact answer, but we know that that's about 8.1 is equal to c. And so there. Close to 9, but not exactly yet. Now, there's one other problem type that we might have, and it's this one. Okay, this one here, the common mistake would be to set it up in the incorrect way. Again, first thing we do is have a guess. Okay, this side is 13, this side is 5. I know that this side has to be less than 13 because 13 is the longest side in this triangle. It's opposite the right angle. It's going to be less than 13. But I think it's going to be more than 8. Because, man, if that side A was 8, 8 plus 5 would be 13, and that would just be like, this would be a side length 8, and then this would be a side length 5, and they wouldn't be a triangle at all. It would be a straight line. So I know it's bigger than 8, less than 13. So I'm going to guess 11. Question mark. And now we get to verify our guess by checking it over here. So I know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Notice I write the equation down every time. And then I substitute carefully. 13 is the longest side. I must put it over there. 5 is one of the sides. Let's put it there, plus 5 squared. And then a squared is just a squared, because I don't know a yet. I'm guessing it's 11, but I'm not sure. So now we evaluate. A squared, I can't evaluate that until I know what a is, so just write that down. Plus 5 squared is 25. And 13 squared is 169. There we go. Now, we'll need to do one inverse operation when the question comes at us like this. We're going to subtract 25 from both sides because we'd like to isolate a as much as possible. And that allows us to get that constant term away. Now we know that a squared is equal to 169 minus 25 happens to be 144. Okay? And then, what do we do to solve this type of problem? You're right. You take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides to find out what a is. And that will give you a is equal to the square root of 144. Oh, that happens to be 12. Okay, so what is it? A is 12 centimeters, because this is centimeters and that's centimeters. Okay, so I've upgraded my guess from 11 to 12 and made some progress. Oh, I should say, we can also guess here about our closest square. But if we know our squares well, then we'd recognize that as exactly the square root of 12. Okay, so these are the tools that you're going to be using to solve the check your understanding problems and get ready for tomorrow's quiz. All right, everyone. I hope your math practice is fruitful today. And with any questions, absolutely hit me up by email. Bye for now.